Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to paint beautiful watercolor flowers painted very fluidly. I am choosing a flower, I believe it's called an aster, and it's a purple flower that's similar to sunflowers. So I'm going to start off just by sketching the outline of the flower really light. You can even see the pencil marks. And I'll put down below like what grade of lead that I've used to sketch this out, because you don't want the pencil lead to show once we put the watercolor down. So I'm just sketching it out really lightly and not in detail, just pretty much the outline of how I want the shape of the bouquet to fall. So I'm using an acrylic ink for the purple, and I'm using a little bit of like a magenta color. I'm using Dr. Ph Martins ink, and this is from the Hydrus line. And I'll give you guys a close-up of the ink so you can see how it looks in case you want to try it out. I really love this Hydrus line. I recently tried it this year. I usually use the Indian ink, but the Hydrus line really looks nice. And this is also the acrylic ink that I'm using for the purple hues. So if you've watched my videos before, then you know I use a technique called the wet on wet technique, where I wet the paper first and then I put the wet watercolor or the wet ink into the wet water. So pretty much I'm wetting the paper in the outline that I want the watercolors and the ink to go. So I'm pretty much just drawing out the shape really lightly and not too precise, just kind of eyeing it and kind of tracing the pencil marks with the water where I want the ink to go. So I'm just taking a Winsor & Newton angled watercolor brush, and I'm going to start drawing really light lines to mimic the flower's petals. And I'll zoom in so you guys can see the details and how I'm putting these brush strokes really lightly. Okay, so you see how I'm just brushing the brush strokes out. You can see how the water is kind of carrying the color, so it creates the petal for you. Okay, so I'm just eyeing it so you can see how I'm just lightly putting more purple in wherever I feel like it needs to be filled in. So for the middle, I'm going to put a little bit more water, just a little bit, and I want to put this yellow, so you see the yellow center on the flowers. I want to put some yellow ink in the middle, and then the yellow is going to start to spread out and run into the purple, so it just looks like a very fluid and seamless flower. So I'm just lightly pressing this yellow. You have to be careful with yellow paint, in my opinion, because I mean, mixed with most colors, it just turns into like this muddy brown color. But since the purple is not, it's not a lot of ink on the purple petal, so it's not merging too much. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the acrylic ink in turquoise, and I'm going to add a little bit of turquoise dots around the yellow flowers. And if you all have ever bought these flowers from like a grocery store or a market or a flower market, then you know that in the middle, yes, most of the middle part is yellow, but it also has, if you look at it, it has like some shadows of like black or green. So that's what this green is doing. It's kind of pulling the inside of the flower together so it doesn't look so flat. Okay, so we're going to go and do other parts of, well, the same part of the flower, but we're going to do it facing different ways. So I like to, when I'm drawing, just play around with the flowers, like place them upside down, kind of tear off a little bit of the stem, kind of brush around the pollen a little bit so it looks really natural and it doesn't look like super stiff. So I'm just drawing this flower as its face upside down. So you know when the flower starts to die, starts to like limp over, and you just see the bottom part of it. You see like the stem coming on top. So that's how I'm drawing this next flower. So I'm just going to add a little bit of magenta into it. To me, it just looks so much more interesting if it's a variety of colors versus like this flat color, because when you look at flowers, yes, it always looks like one color, but when you really study it, it's an array of color. I don't care which kind of flower it is. They always have different hues of colors. Okay, so I'm just applying a little water to kind of spread these out. I'd rather have put like a dollop of ink and then use water to spread it out versus trying to fill in all the petals and all of the shapes and details with just pure ink. Okay, so on top, I'm just using this turquoise ink and I'm creating like the top of the stem. Okay, so for the next shape, you can see that, you guys, if you've ever had like something like sunflowers or daisies, you know that when they start to die, either they limp over or the leaves just start to fall down, like almost like the leaves are drooping down and the pollen is just like the tip of the top. So that's how I'm drawing this next shape. And I promise you, once you start drawing flowers just in different types of poses, I guess you can say the flowers are posing, the paintings, especially if you're doing paintings for print design, they just look so much more interesting versus just drawing them flat on from one dimension or from one angle. Okay, so I'm just lightly putting brush strokes to illustrate how the flower is drooping down. You can also use the same technique with this last flower and use some water to kind of spread the ink out a little bit. And as I said, like the pollen will be pretty much like the center focus for this flower, so I'm just using this yellow again to create the center part, and then I'm going to also go around it with a little bit of green. Okay, so I'm just doing one more flower, and then I'm going to start to pull it all together with the stems really, really lightly and very loosely. And this is pretty much the same technique that I used for the first one. I'm just using more magenta color so it looks a little bit more interesting. Okay, so for the stem of the flower, you see that I put the water down first, and I'm just putting ink into the water so that it creates this very loose, beautiful stem and the petals. Okay, so this also came in the bouquet of the flowers. If you guys know the name of this, please let me know. But I'm going to illustrate these purple small flowers coming out of the top of this bouquet, of this floral arrangement. So I'm just putting water at the top, and you can do it anywhere. You can do it like coming out the bottom of the flowers, or if you wanted to mix those small purple flowers like inside of the bouquet, you could do that. But I'm just going to do it coming out of the top. So I'm taking this turquoise ink and I'm just lightly brushing it with the tip of my brush. And as you guys can see, you can't see my hand, but I'm holding the brush like at the tip, so you can just get those really, really light brush strokes. If you have your too much of a grip on the brush, then it creates heavier brush strokes, which, you know, if that's what you're going for, that's fine. But for this one, especially to me, for like floral prints, it's just nice to hold the brush lightly at the end. So I'm just putting water on the tips of these stems and really lightly taking this purple ink and just filling it in with just literally, I'm just dabbing the brush and trying to mimic the shape of those purple small flowers. And that's it. And if you wanted to make it more detailed, of course, you can just add more flowers or more stems or more of the small flowers. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you try to do this painting. If you've ever painted these types of flowers, please let me know. I'll be back next week with another floral tutorial, another video. I will see you next week. Ciao.